All right, everyone. Another week, another podcast. It is the Informed Moron, and we're trying something different right now. We're going visual, okay? We got videos, we got beers, and we have a new person on the podcast, a new member, and he's sitting right next to me in person, and that is Nick Chicoine. Nick, welcome to the team, buddy.
Thank you for having me here.
Of course, one of my best friends, one of the smartest people I know, and one of the most successful also professionally. And we're going to get into that later in the podcast. But we also got an original cast member here, one that's been here from the start. And he's looking handsome as ever right now. You know, he hasn't shaved in a while. He's been working 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, getting that money. Dylan Ito, how are you doing over there, bud?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, man. I have been working a lot. Haven't shaved in a while. Shaved neck beard out a little today. Getting ready for this podcast. But, you know, grooming could do a little more. But we're here. We're fucking working hard. We're stacking up some money. We're here to talk about some finances. Maybe teach some people about how to stack up their money, be smarter with their money, and get more value of themselves.
Definitely. So, I agree with that. Yeah. And I think that can resonate with a lot of people right now in this time in history that we're currently living through. But I want to touch base with Nick first, man. Nick just grilled us up some steaks. We're at his house in Hayward. We're on top of a hill right now. We're living lavishly. I mean, we had some fillets. I ate some Funyuns. We're drinking Stella Artois. I feel bougie.
Yeah, man, getting the mood right, set to talk and inform the people, inform some morons, you know?
Inform some morons, yeah. So, but I want to know, how are you doing? How are you living, buddy?
I'm enjoying life. You know, I've reached a point in my life with my career where I'm happy with where I'm at. It was a goal of mine to get in with Tesla, and now I'm just kind of, you know, doing that daily grind. You know, the next 40 years is what they say, and we have to do until we retire. So why not enjoy it, you know?
Right. Well, we should touch on it. Not everyone here knows who you are. You work for Tesla. You went to school for sustainable manufacturing,
That's
if I'm correct, and now you're doing some engineering work with Tesla, helping design packaging, and he's kicking ass. He's kicking ass over there. So we're very lucky to have Nick here. He took some time out of his busy schedule, and that could help with some of the topics that we're going to get into today, because right now we are living through what is currently called the Great Resignation. A lot of people are quitting their job. They feel like they're undervalued, underpaid, underappreciated, and overworked. And honestly, I'm in the same boat. And I would love to learn from Nick and love to learn from Dylan, who have experience in this exact situation, giving you leverage with your employer, with your boss, letting them know what value that you add to the team and helping you get that bonus or that pay increase, and helping you to achieve your goals that you set for yourself financially, professionally, whatever it may be. So I'll start with Nick. Nick, what do you think currently is causing this great resignation with a lot of people our age, or just people that are in the working force in America? What do you believe this is going on, and what could we do to combat this?
You know, I think what happened with COVID and having a lot of business get shut down is that these places are reopening and they're understaffed, and those people who are actually working are still either getting paid the same or even less. And so they're doing more work for the same amount of pay. At the same time, inflation is running rampant, and you know, the basic necessities of life are just becoming more expensive. And so as people are seeing that their paycheck isn't going as far, and they just can't handle those necessities. And so when they feel they're getting shafted, they will just quit and go somewhere else where they feel more valued or get the pay that they're actually looking for.
Right. And I can understand that. I mean, nowadays a dollar doesn't go to and I get where people are coming from. But Ito, I know that you have some good input on this, and we were talking about this earlier just on a phone call. Why is this happening, and what are some things that people can do every day, just everyday Joes, you know, like what can we do?
Yeah, well, I think this is happening for a combination of reasons. Everything that you guys just touched on, that covered most of it. I think another thing is people saw that was unemployment checks and they're sitting at home and they realized how much work sucks. And I think that really made them realize something that in economics is called the labor leisure equation. And it's factors in how many hours. It's why you get paid more for overtime. And what people realize is they need to value their free time a lot more. And in order to do that, what you guys touched on in inflation, everything's going up. It seems like it's harder and harder to have that free time because you're always working in order to pay off what you need to pay off. So what people need to do is they do need to ask for more money, and they need to realize that they're working for pennies on the $100 bills for the people that they're working for. Or not, maybe not the people that they're directly working for, but the owner of the people paying their paycheck. They're making a lot more money than all those people. And really, the working class is what makes everything go around. They're the ones actually producing the product. And so I think a lot of people just started valuing their free time more, and they started valuing themselves more. And to take it a step further, if you're at your job and the only leverage you have is if you're willing to walk away from your job and know that there's plenty of other jobs out there.
Dylan, like,
you will get a lot of raises just being able to walk away, because if you're a good employee, they won't let you walk. They'll give you that raise.
But how do you get that leverage? Like, how do you get that leverage to walk away and either they'll comply and be like, okay, we'll give you the raise, or you have the leverage to go somewhere else to get the paying job? Like, how do you get there?
I think a lot of that has to do with your peer work. And if you're lucky enough that someone noticed, and that is a great point, because I was lucky enough for the head boss, the regional manager, to realize that they couldn't lose me. So my situation is a little bit different, but basically I was just willing to walk away, and I didn't like the situation I was in. And I was just put in my 2 weeks and I was done, and kind of left it at that. And then you get the million questions, and you just have to know, like, deep down that you are that good of an employee that they can't let you walk. And if they do let you walk, you'll get something else where you will be able to move up the ladder, and they'll realize it. So I guess a lot of that is you do have to put in the work. You have to put in the work and be one of the better employees in order to gain that kind of leverage.
Right. You can't just ask for a raise for no reason.
No.
You have to have that self-belief instilled in you from that hard work that you're doing at your job, putting in those long hours, putting in the work that nobody wants to do. And I feel like a lot of time what has also contributed to this factor that everyone's quitting their job right now is because as a generation of people, we're kind of expecting this immediate kind of gratitude, this immediate
gratification.
Yes, immediately. We want it right away, especially if we're putting in hard work. We want it right now.
Yeah.
And I'm guilty of that.
Me too.
You know, all of us are. And it's not our fault. It's how we've been conditioned.
Gambling's a bitch.
Yeah, man. And you know what? We need to learn to put in some work sometimes and ask for it later. But I mean, at the same time, we have to have that self-belief in ourselves. Hey, I do add value to this company. I do add value to any company that I'd be with, whether it be here or not. And you have to know your fucking worth.
Yeah.
You know, what I think about is sports right away. Like I immediately think of Joe Burrow. I think both of you guys are familiar with Joe Burrow, and I'd hate to bring this to sports, but I think this is a great comparison. You know, Joe Burrow always dreamed of being a Ohio State Buckeye when he was a child. And he went to Ohio State after high school, and he was a third stringer, and he paid his dues for a couple years. He put in the work, and he knew that he should be the starter, and they didn't give him the starting job behind Dwayne Haskins, RIP, also behind Justin Fields, and behind the other guy. Who did they have over there? The other dude that went to the Patriots recently. I forget his name.
Mac.
He was on the Colts as well. No, not Mac. The Colts. The guy that was black on the Colts. Black quarterback. Oh, this is a horrible segue. But anyway,
was he on the Patriots and went to the Colts?
Yeah, Brissett.
Jacoby Brissett.
Excuse me. Yeah, Jacoby Brissett. Yes. Okay, so he was behind Jacoby Brissett, Anyway, he ended up knowing his worth. He transferred to LSU, and he ended up having one of the best seasons of all time and being the starting quarterback there, winning a Heisman, a national championship. And that was all because he had a self-belief in himself, and he put in that work, and he knew that he should be starting. And hey, he left his dream job, his dream destination, for another place that was kind of in chaos. He went into a place where they had an interim head coach and Coach O. And then guess what? They went to a national championship, went undefeated. He ended up getting drafted, and now he's in a Super Bowl with one of the worst organizations that's ever been in the NFL because he stuck to his guns. And I think a lot of people need to instill that in themselves.
It is a prime example of knowing your worth and being bold enough to go where you know you'll be valued and that you can make an impact. And I think that is very applicable to the workforce as well. You know, if you have that leverage and you know where you can go to make an impact, then that's where you need to go and where your self-improvement will prosper.
Right.
And to touch back on that instant gratification, I think a lot of it has to do with we were instilled at a young age that going to college and getting a degree is going to instantly result in like getting a great paying job, and you know everything's going to be smooth and you'll get the house and the car and everything's going to be great. But that's not what we're seeing. Our generation and generation beneath us, we're all seeing that, you know, you can get a bachelor's degree, you can get a master's degree. Doesn't automatically guarantee a great paying job. Doesn't automatically mean you're going to be successful. You know, and there's people out there that don't even go to college. They find the niche that they fit. They find where their value is most appreciated, and they flourish there, right? And so it's understanding those different industries and your strengths and what you can improve upon in that specific area. And I think for a lot of us, myself included, it takes some time to figure that out. Like I went to college and I had no clue what I wanted to do. Like I even changed my major after the first year from environmental science to that sustainable manufacturing. You know, I got that engineering degree. And even after I graduated, I had no idea what I wanted to do. You know, I just shot out a bunch of resumes like, okay, I need money. Like any job that is offered to me, I'll take. And I think a lot of people are in that same predicament, which then results in getting underbid for your market value. And that's what happened to me. Was I was paid under what I should have been paid at my first job. And after that first year, I had documented evidence of where my value was and like how I benefited that company, and I was able to leverage a raise. You know, and I think that's something that people need to get into the practice of if they're really going for that raise. If they really think that they deserve the extra money, they need to somehow have documented evidence of it. You know,
that's great advice. How do you go about getting documented evidence? Did you write stuff down that you did, or did you go into a database and research maybe some statistics that you added? Like,
so for me, it was all the projects I worked on. I had a file system within the computer. I mean, any place that provides a service for another company, like I was at a packaging distributor. I would save my projects, and all I did was I created kind of a portfolio of those projects. And it wasn't even like some grand PowerPoint presentation. It was just images of what I had done, which companies I benefited, and you know, and the amount, if this is applicable to you, the amount of money you've saved or the amount of money you brought in for the company. And that's what the employer needs to see. They need to understand how much more money did they make because you were on board, right? And without you, they wouldn't have that increased revenue. Money talks, and so that's like the quickest way to get any kind of reaction out of your employer. Right. So that's what worked for me.
Right. So what people need to understand basically is your employer. The way to get a raise with your employer is basically to show your value, how much you add to the company, what you do for the company, present that to them. Because I feel like emotionally people feel like, hey, I'm putting in this work, I've put in these hours, I need a raise.
But who sees that?
That doesn't really go noticed. And unfortunately, that's an avenue that a lot of people take, you know, because they feel like they're deserving that raise, or hey, I work harder than so and so, but maybe you're not as valuable to the company. Maybe they bring something to the table that you don't necessarily. So you need to understand what your role is, what you do, and just do that to the best of your ability. And I feel like Dylan could add in on this. Dylan's a great team player. He understands his role and whatever he does, that's what makes him great. We're actually talking about this in baseball the other day, and he's like, dude, I fucking knew my role and I did that shit, never asked any questions, and that's why I was one of the best players on the team, you know. So
I didn't say the best players on the team part, but yeah, I did a lot of bunting in high school. Yeah.
Right, and I feel like you've taken that attitude into your professional career as well. So what is something?
But that's what I think that hits. It's kind of weird. It's ironic because that exact mentality is also what you almost have to. You have to realize at a certain point you're not being a team player. You're getting screwed over.
Yeah.
And you're doing more work than other people for less money, and that's where. And back to sports, man. That's why sports is one of the best industries in the world, is because it's one of the few where the best get paid the most. Mm-hmm. And a lot of industries, you have people that just because they've been there for a long time and they sit on their phone and watch YouTube most of the day.
Yeah, it's very true. It's fucked up, man. Like, I know, like, in my personal experience, I've been at work and there's people there that have been there for years and they have a horrible attitude. You know, it's kind of negative. It feels like their energy is drained. Like, it's kind of sucked the life out of them. They don't like the 9-to-5 routine. And we're there, younger, more full of energy. Maybe we have a more positive attitude, and it's kind of frustrating to see them make way more money than you, and you feel like you're adding more value, but then maybe necessarily that's not how the employer sees it. It kind of comes down to relationships. Sometimes it's not what you know, it's who you know. And people play favorites.
Big time.
But we need to take advantage of that. We need to take note of that, and we need to get in with our employers as well. You know, we need to understand that a personal relationship with your employer does play a part in how much you're being paid and how you advance within the company, networking, you know.
Seniority can only get you so far. Like, there are the types of people that have been in a company for 10, 15, 20 years, but they haven't elevated themselves because they don't want to, not comfortable doing it, or they just don't know how to do it. And so I think
and so that's what I'm saying.
Go ahead.
But Nick, that's I guess exactly what I'm saying is, like, those guys, there's a lot of people that are just skating by, that if you just have the young talented guys moving up quicker through the ranks, because I mean, technology alone, like in a lot of jobs, just the use of technology that the younger generations have is so much higher. They're able to be so much more efficient. Whether you're looking at spreadsheets or there's a million different things, whether you're doing models on CAD or something, it benefits. The younger generation is benefited because it's it's new, it's different. Like, those guys, a lot of them started off doing their job a lot differently.
Right.
And so just where we're at, like, I think that we could become a lot more of efficient in all work. I don't know about you guys. Am I wrong? Or is your work environment different? Do you feel like you guys work really efficiently in what you're doing? Or do you think that there's a lot of like inefficiencies that should be fixed that would save a lot of time and allow you to make more money? And because you got to figure the paycheck, the work you're doing is the same, but get it done faster so you can get that free time.
I mean, yeah, there's definitely new softwares and technology that make certain aspects of operations within a company more efficient. And like, for example, invoicing or warehousing, like the older generation did a lot of things manually. They wrote stuff down, like they printed stuff, they remembered stuff, right? Yeah. And now we've got databases and cloud computing that keep track of stuff for us. And I think the role of the younger generation is to, one, understand how those work, but also teach the older generation so that the people who are in those senior positions and are struggling maybe with the technology, they see, hey, this younger person is helping me understand. They're taking charge. They're leading other people, other employees to better understand how this operates. And so maybe they deserve a promotion or a raise or something. You know, that type of benefit is definitely valued. And I think some people just kind of get frustrated with the older generation for not understanding it. But if you can help them understand, that's a huge benefit because they're the ones making decisions on your pay raise, right? So I think that could be something that we could leverage.
That actually brings up a great point with me. That's great advice for me, and that really resonates for my industry because I work with a lot of older guys. I work in electrical sales, so I work with a lot of people that have been electricians, put in panels. They're familiar with circuit breakers, and if you're not familiar with circuit breakers, it's basically electrical parts that power your house, power companies. It basically puts the lights on. That's what we're doing. We're supplying lighting for people and power to people. And a lot of times everything they do is manual, writing stuff down, remembering stuff, printing stuff out. And technology would help them a lot. But the older generation is very resistant to technology. They're unfamiliar with it. And they have a poor attitude when it comes to learning new things. You know, they're set in stone, basically, what they do. And basically what I'm learning, what I'm trying to take on is being okay. This is what I've learned in a book that I'm reading. It may sound corny, but what it teaches you is to be a CEO, to have a CEO mindset. And it's not the traditional CEO route that you're thinking of. What it stands for is Chief Energy Officer. You bring energy to the table every day, and you bring that enthusiasm, you bring the knowledge, you bring the passion, and that kind of gets people on board with your mission and on board with what you're trying to accomplish, especially with transparency and communication. So what I've been trying to do is bring them a little bit on board with ideas that I have with technology, and it's gone pretty good so far. I'm not saying that it's a great route to take and that it's not hard to navigate through and that it's not hard, because it is. But having a good attitude and a positive outlook on things can do a lot for you, especially when trying to teach others how to do something. When you have a great attitude and a positive outlook, people are going to want to follow you, as opposed to you being a dick and having a negative attitude on, God, these old guys can't learn fucking anything. These old guys don't want to learn anything. These old guys fucking suck. No, you want the old guys to be your best friend. Make friends with them. Bring them fucking donuts on Friday.
Yeah.
Bring them some coffee. Buy them some Modelo's at the bar after work. You know,
ask them for advice.
Ask them for advice. Have them talk about themselves. Ask about their kids, about their wives. Make friends with these guys and be real with them, because that's how you build relationships, and relationships help a lot. Networking. And I think people a lot of times these days are just negative and focused on bad energy and how bad their life is. Look at how good your life is. You woke up today, you have a fucking job, you're putting food on the table. It may not be the highest paying job, and you may not have the nicest car, the nicest house. But you got a family that loves you, a mom that's still alive, a dad that's still alive, or a grandma that's still alive, a grandpa that's still alive. You have a dog, you got a girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever. Look at what's good. Don't look at what's bad, and focus on that and keep driving at home and accomplish your goals one little thing at a time. And I feel like you could apply that to anything, not just work, you know. And
what a motivational speaker you are.
Hey man, I just want to tell the people, man, like, you know,
that was beautiful.
Focus on the good, not the bad. And that just made me ramble into that, because lately at work, that just resonated with me. A lot of bad attitudes, and the way that I've got around is having a good attitude and just spreading that to the people.
Passion can be infectious.
It can be. It's fucking. It's literally. It's infectious, man. When you go into the office with a good attitude, people pick up on that.
Yeah.
If someone comes into the attitude with a good attitude and gives you a hug and they go, "How you doing, Nick? You fucking look at that shirt. You got a good shirt, bud.
You've made my Monday so much better."
And then you pass it on to another guy, and then another guy, and the office is all in a good mood. And before you know it, everyone's going out for fucking tacos after work. You know, and you got Taco Tuesday, and like, it's infectious. What do you think? You know, I know you're over there smiling, but what do you think? When you have a good attitude, doesn't it get?
No, I agree, man. Like, it's all about having a positive attitude, and I agree 100% with everything you said. It was just, that was beautiful, man. I was taken back. I was speechless.
Hey, well, thank you. But this helps me go into another aspect that we have written down here that we wanted to talk about, which is the gas prices, inflation, and that fucking dickhead Joe Biden. So we're thinking, is this his fault? I don't know. I know it's probably not his fault, but hey,
guys, say that again. Repeat that question.
Oh, I'm sorry. I wanted to get into gas prices, inflation, and Joe Biden. Is it Joe Biden's fault for all this? Because I've been seeing that a lot. You know, we've seen the stickers at the gas station with Joe Biden pointing at the gas prices.
I did that.
Yeah, I did that right there. Did he do it?
I mean, the president has very little control over gas prices. It's all about the basic economic understanding of supply and demand. And where we get our oil is really what dictates those prices, right? And sometimes there's artificial supply shortages, right? If we were getting oil from Saudi Arabia, if they decide, hey, we're just only going to release a couple billion barrels instead of 10 billion barrels, then everybody still needs gas, right? And especially during summer when people go on vacations, they need gas to go places. So causes inflation of gas prices. And I don't know what's going on now that has caused it to reach to like $6 when in the past it's only gone maybe like $4-5. But just because we put Joe Biden into the presidency doesn't automatically make gas prices rise. Like, don't get me wrong, I don't love the guy, but whether it was Biden, Trump, Obama, Bush, Clinton, like none of those guys actually control the prices. But they do have, I think they have a little bit of power of negotiating, but it's really very minimal. There's websites online that you can check out that tell you a little bit more in depth about it. But as far as I know, like presidents have like very little control over it. Okay. So although, I don't understand, I think California is probably the highest out of the entire state.
Yeah.
And I personally believe that is because we're trying to push EV adoption.
Right. Especially at this time, it seems very convenient because of the EV push, right? Like they're trying to make it mandatory for in 2026.
I think it's like 2030, no more sales of ICE engines or cars. Wow. And, that's a very optimistic or tough aspiration to reach.
And these gas prices are pushing everyone to electric vehicles.
Yeah.
Everyone. Like it doesn't matter if you're blue collar, white collar, like everyone's like, dude, I'm about to get an electric car. This is ridiculous.
While I understand that, I think it is kind of messed up to force a consumer like that, but it kind of is very similar to how Apple phased out the auxiliary port on the bottom of their phones.
Yeah.
Like they didn't ask consumers, oh, do you think we should remove it? They just removed it.
Right.
And they're just like, get with the program or get out or buy something else, right? Buy some Bluetooth headphones. And I think that is a very similar route we're going with EVs. Yeah.
You think it's a good thing? Because you personally work for Tesla, you have an electric vehicle. I know you're a fan. Do you see that as a problem at all?
I see it as a problem because our infrastructure is not ready to handle that yet.
Right.
But at the same time, how else are we going to push that? How else are we going to make that progress? Right? Sometimes you have to sacrifice things for the greater good or like progress of a certain industry or whatever it is. And if someone doesn't force your hand, maybe it'll never happen. Right. And so this is kind of the one way that we're going to be able to do that is provide enough variety of EVs for people to buy that are affordable enough. But at the same time, because that demand is increasing, we need to also increase the jobs for the green sector for like wind turbines and solar energy and hydroelectric dams, because if we have so many EVs on the road, we need to be able to charge them, and the infrastructure has to be able to handle that load. So it's
a lot of power.
Something's got to force another thing to happen. And unfortunately, sometimes the people suffer for a while and they have to make sacrifices. And that kind of comes back to like coal miners. Like, well, you're putting coal miners out of a job. It's like, well, in that scenario, it's the government's responsibility to retrain those people.
Right.
Because if they're the ones forcing them out of a job and forcing them out of coal mining, then they should be providing the training for them to learn how to install solar panels, how to work on hydroelectric dams, or how to install wind turbines. And I think that's where the role of the government comes in. If they're going to force us to do something, they need to at least provide us a path to be successful for the next era or the next generation.
Right.
So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, Dylan, and it's a lot.
I've never actually thought about that before. And yeah, it's a very interesting point.
What do you think about everything, though? What do you think about like the gas prices, transitioning to EV vehicles, inflation? Like, I know you have some takes on that. You're talking about
So
Basically,
here's
you
the
were
thing,
saying
man.
earlier, like people need to
This
save.
is what I think. I think inflation. I'll start with that because I think that's probably the most complex thing. In inflation's going to screw us. I mean, we gave a lot of people a lot of money for a year during COVID, an extra $600 a month or $600 a week on unemployment, plus jacked up unemployment rates, people making more than what they were actually working. So when you're actually working, you're building an economy. When you're not, when you're sitting at home, it's like anything else, man. If you're not getting better, you're getting worse. And so we're stagnant. We're not doing anything. A lot of people are sitting at home. Our economy's dropping in production, like in terms of GDP, no doubt about it. And that's gonna. And I fucking kind of lost where I was.
GDP. You're
I
talking
mean,
about
when we're sitting at home not doing anything,
the
people
deterioration.
money.
Oh yeah, and so when you have the gross domestic product dropping and people making more money than they were before, that's going to create a bubble like the recession. I wouldn't be surprised if prices kept going up for a while at this point. And then things like housing, I feel like will start crashing because usually it's those higher value things that maintain during recessions that are going to go down. And so you just have to be prepared and know that this is a time to take, if you own let's say a house, if you own something big, it's a time to take out an equity loan and go invest in something else and go make sure that you have something. And as messed up as it is, there's also a huge gap between what people buy houses for and what people are renting for, especially in California. That's a huge issue because people are renting for more than almost $1,000 over the top of the mortgage. And so when you have a situation like that, you need to take advantage of it and make sure that you have your hands on something like that where you're going to be able to have that steady residual income in a way that's not just your job. And that goes back to our original point, is creating leverage. That's how another way to create leverage. You need to have some kind of residual income in order to just be okay all the time and to almost counteract that inflation. So you just have to be very proactive and know that it's not going to get better before it gets worse, and just be prepared for it.
Bold of you to assume that, many of us have homes to go and get an equity loan.
Yeah.
Well, no, I'm not saying, but I'm saying if you have that kind of like opportunity and like it, and just be smart and figure out a way to create residual income. I mean, that's what we're doing here. We're trying to create a whole brand, and it's not easy, and it's something that you're going to have to dedicate a lot of time and effort into, but figure out what you want to do and just go after it and create that source of residual income any way you can. That's on inflation. What were the other two topics that I was supposed to talk about?
Gas prices and if Joe Biden is at fault for it.
Okay, yeah. I will say this. I don't know too much about politics, but in my life, every time that there is a Republican in office, gas prices go down. And every time there's a Democrat, gas prices go up. I don't know what it's all about. I'm not saying that it's a direct correlation. I am saying Sleepy Joe probably he's talking about all the time too, just like I did. So I understand where he's coming from, but just can't have it as the president. And I don't think he's in charge of the gas prices, but I do think that he has something to do with Putin fucking growing the balls to fucking attack Ukraine. And I don't want to say growing the balls as a euphemism. It wasn't a good thing what he did, but I think that, yeah, Sleepy Joe in office wasn't the best idea.
Definitely, and now that you touched on what's going on with Russia and Ukraine a little bit, and little nutsack Putin, man, is that kind of at fault right here? What's going on with the stock market? What's going on with inflation or gas prices? Because I have heard that Russia supplied a large amount of oil to us, right? And now we've kind of
that's more the East Coast though, and that's what Nick's talking about with artificial supply shortages. Is I think that California is using it as an excuse, and a lot of places are using it at the war as an excuse to jack up these gas prices, when realistically the only gas that Russia and Ukraine supplied, that area supplied to us, was for the East Coast. It was that whole East region. So California shouldn't be getting jacked up the same way.
Yeah. We have a lot of oil in America.
That's a whole nother fucking thing.
Yeah.
A lot of it is on protected lands though, like natural parks. And so that's like last resort. Like we don't want to touch that. But we have those reserves. But we're trying to progress the society, I say, before we tap out our resources. Like, and I think with that comes sacrifices. And again, coming back to it, like, if that's what the government wants us to do, then the government has to provide us those pathways to be successful for our citizens to retrain, to have a job, and to continue providing for themselves. And that, in turn, with inflation, unfortunately, requires a lot of side hustles or secondary income.
Right.
And it's like, how do you even do that if you're working 40, 50, 60 hours a week at your primary job, right? And that, I think, kind of segues into how a lot of people are making money today is through social media.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
what we're trying to do right now.
Right here.
Right.
You know, Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, ad revenue. Like those are other ways to be making money. And so if people are looking for more money, more secondary income, like that's a route to go to. It's like you have to provide a service, you have to provide, or at least a niche of information that people want to hear. Right. Like if you're not a hot chick, you can't be doing these dances that just generate views. Right. Like
you can't
and that's a great point, dude. You gotta know who you are, and not just know who you are. You gotta understand that if you're not working hard and you're not producing, even if you're not working hard and you're producing a lot, you got a fucking foot to stand on. But the first thing is you got to have some kind of product that's value to someone else. Because if you don't, then you don't deserve to get paid very much because you're not useful to anyone else in any way. So why would they pay you? And I think that's something it's a brutal fact of like life and situations where, like you're saying, where the government steps in and shuts down something. Then in those situations, the government needs to show those guys a way out and a path forward. But people that grew up with, I don't want to say the same opportunities. Everyone grows up with different opportunities, but a lot of the same education system. And I don't care where you're from, if you grew up rich, poor, what color you are. But if you're a kid and you go ask a grown-up in a high position for an opportunity, you will get those opportunities a lot of those times. And I know it's a lot to ask for a kid to be that mature and do that kind of stuff, but there is always like ways out, I guess I'm saying, and ways to go make money. And like someone's always looking for someone of value, and you just need to realize how to be valued to them if you're trying to get a paycheck, and then become to the point where you can't be replaced. And that's when you have a real foot to stand on.
I feel like it just keeps coming back to self-belief, man. Having that self-belief in you and knowing that you are worthy and you do add value to wherever you're at. And I also think this circles back around to what you said earlier. Your point that you had is people need to be more conservative with their free time. They need to understand how important their free time is and how much value that adds to your life, how much can be done in those hours after work when you're not commuting or you're not hanging out with your family. Always cut out a few hours to educate yourself about something that you're passionate about, whether it be like, for instance, what we're doing, we're podcasting. In our free time, I like to call you guys, message you guys, and we brainstorm about ways that we can produce some passive income or ideas for the podcast that we can do that can make it more marketable. Find that niche that you're passionate about, whether it be fashion, whether it be social media, whether it be dancing, whatever.
Science,
robotics. There's an audience out there for you. Find what you're passionate about, work your ass off at it, and find ways to monetize it. Find ways to make money off of it, because there's a blueprint out there for you. And find people that are doing what you want to do and talk to them. Hit them up. Say, yo, what did you do? Can you teach me how? And people will teach you how, like what Dylan's saying. If you're a young guy, even if you're an old guy, even if you're 70 years old and you ask someone for help and you say, hey, man, could you show me how to do this? Most of the time they're going to say yeah. Unless they're a fucking dick, then they're going to say no. But like, imagine someone comes up to you at something you're good at. Dylan's over here, a good surfer. If a guy comes up to you and say, hey man, I see that you're really good at surfing. Can you teach me how to surf? Or for example, Nick's really good at the stock market. I went up to Nick. I say, hey Nick, can you teach me about stocks? Nick taught me about stocks. Go up to people that you know are good at something and ask them for advice, man. Go to people that you know.
Yeah, I mean, the worst thing they'll say is just, I don't have time right now. Maybe then you figure out a good schedule for them to sit down and talk to them. But most people will want to share their wisdom, and that's kind of how you grow as a person. Life is a continuous journey of self-improvement, and if you're willing to improve yourself and gain more knowledge, opportunities will rise. You just have to find those opportunities and take them when they happen.
Mm-hmm. And that's the biggest thing. You got to take them. If those opportunities are there all the time, but most of the time you just won't take them. And it's for a lot of reasons. But hey Nick, I had a question for you, and it's circling back a little bit about you're mentioning how U.S. has a lot of oil, and we could fund our own oil if we wanted to. Do you think at this point with EV coming out and becoming, they're saying 2030, hopefully no more gas cars are being made? And what about diesel? Are they going to keep diesel around? I hope they keep diesel around. There's nothing cooler than blowing a fucking cloud of black smoke up.
You want to roll some coal
off of a gas or a stoplight, but yeah, with EV becoming such a big thing and becoming like an actual, like, what's the range on Teslas nowadays? Close to 500 miles. Maybe?
350 to about 400. And
pretty good.
And so that's an actual, like, realistic commute. Whereas before, or like the Ravion, for example, has like, I don't know, 150 miles. And it's like, a lot of times that will get you into some sticky situations. But now that the technology on that's getting better, it's now a good time to start digging into those oil reserves and save the U.S. people a lot of money, take money out of, I mean, I don't want to take money out of anyone's pockets, but it would put money into the Americans' pockets. And
right.
Do you think that that's a good route at this point with EV becoming a thing where the price of oil probably won't continue to go up? It will drop because we won't have as much of a use for it.
I don't think we have those specific areas set up to do any drilling at the moment. So it's going to take a lot of money to get it prepared and ready and establish pipelines to route it all through where it needs.
Well, we have reserves already, though.
Right, but it's not like it's a dire situation. Like, people are still buying gas, and like that's the simple like principle of supply and demand is like people are still demanding the gas. Like, they're still buying it. Like, the whole country would have to strike, I would say, before they start actually digging into those reserves to lower the price. But if people are going to pay for it, nothing's going to change, right? And it's just like the basic.
But what are those people's alternative?
Not to work.
It's one of those things where it's just like it's a necessity and it's being abused.
I'll tell you what, like, I was at the point a couple of weeks ago where gas was like at $6. I was thinking, dude, I'd fucking quit and just work at Taco Bell. Like, I could be making just as much money at Taco Bell because of these gas prices. It's fucking crazy. Like, I'd rather just have more time working a regular ass job than spending $1,400 a month on gas. That's how much I was spending in Monterey driving to San Jose every day. It was fucking ridiculous.
Insane.
It's insane, dude. And it's like after all those prices, after paying rent, after paying gas, after paying for groceries, after paying for your auto insurance, your fucking cell phone bill. I have a child, so I pay for daycare. Like, it all adds up. And then on top of it, I'm spending all that time on the commute. I'm spending all that time in the office, like, working those OT, and it's infuriating. Like, as a regular average Joe, that's just starting out. Like, I just graduated in 2019, like 1 month before COVID started. So right as soon as that started, I had a tough time finding a job. As soon as I got in, I was on the same page as Nick. I basically got whatever I could get and started working. And right now I'm kind of catching myself and holy shit, I need to get some leverage. It's been a year at my company. What do I do from here? Where do I go with these gas prices skyrocketing, inflation skyrocketing? I feel like I'm being undervalued, overworked. So that's why today's episode is resonating with me a lot. It's like, where do I go from here, and what are some avenues I can take to protect myself, right? Like, so what is that?
Yeah, well, I have something very important to say about that, and I think a lot of people need to hear it, and it's going to be like very mind-opening to a lot of people. And for some people, it's going to sound kind of like a foreign language, but the bottom line is if you save up $20,000, which isn't that hard. Like maybe it takes you 5 years. I don't know. I don't want to assume how much you're able to save, but if you could just save that money, you can retire whenever you want. You just buy a plane ticket to Bali and you'll be able to live out the rest of your life and just kick it on the beach and eat cheap food. That's pretty good. You'll lose some of the luxuries of being in America, but I think that for some people that just sounds like a crazy pipe dream, but hearing that for me kind of changed everything I think about. I realized that the only reason I'm still working is because I want to be able to be around my friends and my family still and like be close to all that. But it's my choice. It's my choice to be caught up in the rat race and try to be part of this crazy booming economy. But there's a lot of areas where you could just move to as an American and just realize how lucky you are and just how, if you really want to, you could be smart and save money and go live the high life. And if you run out, come right back and do the same thing, because there will always be jobs open, period.
That's so
because someone always needs your help. Like someone will always need help doing something.
right.
Some people, though, I feel are kind of stuck in that grind, in that rat race. Like they can't afford to just drop everything and go somewhere else.
Oh yeah.
And so,
but they just need to realize that that's an option, like maybe, and that it's their decision, and it will make them just happier, like at work and doing work and just being part of the economy, just realizing like, hey, like I don't have to do this because like I know what you're saying. Like some people, like Damon has a family, like it'd be hard to convince him, his girl, and Rayman could just take along for the ride, but hey, let's move to Bali and kick it on the beach the rest of our lives.
Mary,
It's weird. It sounds like a weird foreign idea, but I just think that people just need to hear it and know that that is an option and that you're choosing to be part of the rat race, and that it's kind of fun in a way when you think of it like that, and realizing that like you're part of like something a lot bigger than you. You're part of like the whole U.S. economy, which is kind of like COVID really made me realize how crucial that is and how crucial it is that we keep being able to produce and becoming more efficient and having smart people come up with good ideas to improve anything, whether it's Nick, you're like you save material, right, in containing.
yeah, they make sure that.
So just something like that. Like I can't imagine how much A, material that saves, B, the production to get that material, all that pollution that comes out, and then C, just being more efficient, just you could use less and have the same product, and just how like that just needs to continue, and how it's kind of cool being a part of that, but you just really don't have to if you don't want to.
Like, the thing that I'm hearing from you is, again, is having purpose in your job, looking at the bigger picture of your job. Like you can look at it one way with Nick's job. Nick could be like, oh, all I do is I make shit for packaging. Like, oh, this is boring. I put parts into packaging. That's fucking gay. Or you can look at it like, man, I save material. I contribute to less waste per year, and I get fucking paid for it.
And you save money for your company, which that's a metric that they look at to see how you're performing.
Yeah. And that adds value to yourself as well as the company, which gives you leverage in other areas of life. And you can learn the shit that you learn from your job and add it into your free time.
Yeah.
Do something else that can make some side money, right?
Some of the greatest advice I ever got was that this life that we're in the workforce, like it's a game, right? And to succeed at a game, you have to know the rules. You know, and if you can understand the rules and you could work and make them work for you, like that's how you succeed. And so if you can perform within those rules and understand where you can leverage legally how to succeed, then that's how you will elevate yourself in whatever you're trying to do. But also have passion about it.
Yeah, that's very. Oh, my bad.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, my bad. You're like glitching out, so it sounded like you stopped talking. I didn't mean it sounded like you're done.
Oh yeah, no, I was just saying that like on top of that, like you have to have passion about what you do, and that's if you don't have that, then maybe you got to find something else.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree. And what you were saying, Ito, too, I want to bring attention to that. A lot of people think that they need a house, they need a nice car, they need all these materialistic things in order to make themselves happy, when that's not necessarily what makes you happy in the first place. As long as you have your family and you guys are eating food and you have a roof over your head and you love what you do and you're working hard at it, that's all that matters, man. I'm a firm believer in if you're doing what you love and you're working your ass off 100% and you have a positive mind and good intentions, it's all going to work out. You're not going to be living in poverty. I've never met anyone that truly gives 100% in a good aspect that's unsuccessful. I've never yet to meet that person.
I agree.
It all works out. It's crazy, and I'm not the most religious person in the world or anything like that, but I truly do believe in a higher power and like karma. I believe in the energy that you put out is the energy you give back. When you're a good person and you take care of people and you take care of your family and you work your fucking ass off, good things are gonna come your way. It's just the way that the universe works, And I don't make rules, I just live by the rules. You know what I mean? And this, maybe you're not religious or anything, but hey, it doesn't hurt to pray sometimes in hard times, and that's what's helped me through my life and the situations I've been in. And man, I always gotta say, if you're going through a tough time, reach out to somebody, and if you don't have anybody, you can always pray. You know what I mean? And manifest shit. Pray for shit that you want to happen. At least it doesn't have to be to God. Just put it out there. Talk about it. Say what you want. Write it down. Hang it on the wall. And work at it. Think of the little steps to achieve those goals, whether it be financial, spiritually, in your family, emotionally, or relationships, man. Like everything we've talked about today, you can apply it to different aspects of lives. And that's our whole goal here. I think that's like what we're all trying to do here is inform the morons, inform the average Joes, and
because we're morons ourselves, right?
Morons ourselves.
We're all living in the same world, trying to make a way for ourselves. And to touch on what you just spoke about with praying, is like that aspect is ultimately it's introspection. It's taking a deep thought about yourself and your position in life, understanding where you are, where you want to be, and how to get there. And I think that is a huge thing to do. People, they call it's either praying, meditation, introspection, taking time alone in deep thought. Like it's all revolves around the same concept of thinking about your current situation, understanding where you are, where you want to be, and how to get there. And I think if any of the listeners could take anything away from what we've said, or at least what I've said today, is just that understand who you are, the value you bring, the passion you have, and to see where you are, where you want to be, and then how you're going to get there.
That was powerful.
Try, man.
That was really good right there. What do you got to say?
So if I have any words to take away from this episode, it's the same thing Nick touched on. Value yourself. Make sure you know exactly what you're worth, and make sure you're getting what you're worth. But on the other side of that, make sure that to match inflation, buy things that hold value. Like don't save all your money. Like saving money is great if you know exactly what you're trying to buy that's going to hold value. But things that hold value go up in value when inflation hits. Things that don't hold value just decrease all the time. So if you're working your ass off, don't go buy $100,000 truck to show off. Fucking save that money and get something that holds value first, that you could fall back on and sell and support yourself for a while before you get before you get anything nice that depreciates.
So basically what we're saying is invest in stuff that can generate more money for you, not depreciate in value and lose you money. Like for example, a car. A lot of people get a bigger paycheck and they want to buy a car, they want to buy clothes, which is cool. Sometimes, you need a new car and you need a new shirt or whatever, but don't make that the everyday practice. I know that I'm guilty of it. I have friends that are guilty of it. Sometimes I want to buy something nice, and you should sometimes, but know how to budget. Have a plan. Like me and Nick were talking about this earlier. Have a budget. Have a plan. Write it down. How much you can spend a month and where you need to spend it. Whether it be groceries, gas, just bills. And if you have a lady, go over it with your lady. That's something I just learned. So like, yeah. What were you gonna say?
Yeah, so that's something that I learned too, and it's kind of funny the way that I learned it is from chewing tobacco way too much growing up. And finally, so do a little exercise with yourself. So
I learned it from smoking.
Yeah, so exactly. Yeah. So you're talking about how your budget and know like what you're spending on and like where your money's going, right? So at the end, every time, go count up every month all the purchases that you didn't really have to make, whether that was a Reese's bar at the gas station, whatever, a water because you didn't refill your water bottle, whatever you buy that you didn't need to buy that you could have cut out of that, and add all that up at the end of the month, and then add that up all over the year, and then ask yourself, what could I have bought with that if I didn't buy all those things? And that'll just help out a lot in just like conceptualizing how much I think a lot of people do struggle, but a lot of people act like they struggle, but really they just like buy stuff they don't have to. And they don't need, they get it just as an impulse, because every human's impulsive. I'm one of the most impulsive people you can be around, but you just have to like really be disciplined with money.
Self-discipline.
Give the people the advice that you gave me about the paycheck 50% rule. That was a great
well, so the minimum that you should be saving out of your paycheck is 30%. And I think for anyone out there, if your job if you can't take 30% at the beginning of every month and throw it into a certificate of deposit, I don't care what you throw it into. You just throw it into your savings account. Hopefully you can throw it into stocks. I know Nick's really good at stocks. That's another thing that it's kind of an abstract way of thinking of something that you're putting money into that doesn't lose value. That you're banking on is going to be solid and continue to help out and maintain value. And so, you should take 30% of your paycheck or more. I try to do 60% of my paycheck. Awesome. And I take that money and just put it straight into savings. And I act like I don't have it. And what it does for me is it makes me feel like I don't have any money all the time. It makes me feel like I did in college, like, oh man, like I can't get this today because I don't have enough. Like I got to get through this month. When in reality, I could just pull out money and from my savings account and and swipe a different card and like I'd be able to buy whatever I wanted. But it's just having that like do what you can to have that discipline, because I don't have it. If in my checking account I see multiple zeros, I'm going to be like, yeah, I'm going to buy this. I could definitely afford this. But if I don't see that and it's not there and it's like, oh man, like I have to do this step and this step just to get the money so I could buy this thing, it really puts it in perspective. Like, and your impulse goes down and you realize I don't need this at all. And that's what's helped me a lot.
That's a very good point. We were discussing earlier about when you're doing the budget creation, having something that's visual really helps you understand. And so it kind of speaks to what you were just saying, is when you look at that account, and you're like, oh, I don't have that much money, like I'm not going to spend anything. If you do the same thing, if you're laying out your expenditures for the month and for the year, when you see it, it really connects in your head. Like, okay, this is where I can cut out spending money. So
yeah, and hey, there's nothing worse than having your fucking debit card bounce, and for a fact you got the money to pay for it. You feel like little Dicky, dude.
Yeah.
It's like, but dude, it helps out because it makes you so like find focus on like how much you're spending. And I think just a lot of people just need to really focus on that. And it's not about what you make, it's what you spend.
Hey, well, you gave me that advice with the 50%. You didn't say 60, you said 50 to me. And I was like, oh, that's a great idea. And I did it on my next paycheck. And like, I just pretended like that's all that's in there. Right. Like, and I made it work. I didn't think I was going to make it work. And I did.
Boy.
And I was like, wow.
I know you were saying that you didn't know about that.
Right.
And how did you make it work? What did you change?
My day-to-day shit. Usually I would go to work and I'd be like, I don't really like my lunch today. I'm going to go get a fucking wrap. or whatever, and that's $8. You know, it's not a lot of money, but it's $8, and then you get a fucking cheeseburger the next day for $12 and fries and a Coke or whatever. You know, it adds up at the end of the week and at the end of the month. It all adds up, and that's what allows you to save. Cutting out the dumb shit, whatever it may be. Just being more conscious of it, and me seeing that number. I'm a visual guy as well. I see how much is in my account, and when I see it's like under $400, I'm like, oh shit, I go into panic mode. But it's good because I know I have the savings there, but I'm not looking at the savings, right? I'm just looking at the checkings. That's the only thing I'm concerned about. So it just helps me to feel like I'm broke, like you're saying, like I'm back in college. I go to fucking Target and I'm like in there looking at prices at the cheap shit as opposed to just getting what I want, looking at the name brands that I usually get.
Yeah, it's okay to eat off brand. It's okay to drink Dr. Thunder, baby. Dr. Thunder might be better than
There
Dr.
you go. It's okay to get Diet RC Cola. Like when you pay money, like it's fine, you know?
The Safeway Selects and the Kirkland and all that shit. It's like
So,
it's
Kirkland, dude. Kirkland has such high quality products, and people act like, oh, it's cheap, it's not good. Get that out of your
vodka.
mind.
Oh my God. Hey, I've been going to Grocery Outlet Bargain Market, and yeah, I've been saving money there. You guys go to Grocery Outlet?
I just think of the jingle.
Grocery Outlet Bargain Market. I've been going there, and I don't tell my chick. I just go there and I'm like picking out stuff, and then I go to Safeway for whatever I don't need. Okay, so I was
all going the same place.
I'm Mexican. I was born very frugal. So I'm just going back to my roots. Because before when I started making money, I was like, I'm gonna buy whatever I want. If I want it, I'm gonna get it. But I didn't think about saving, right? I had to have a kid, and then I'm like, oh fuck, I gotta pay for this, I gotta pay for that. Oh, and I want to buy a house, and I want this. You know, then you start thinking, oh wait, just because you want it doesn't mean you need it, right? There's a bigger picture at hand, and you need to sit down, plan it out, like what we're saying. It took me a while to learn that shit, and that's kind of the reason why I wanted to have this podcast today, so we can help inform people that don't know about this stuff, that don't think about financial shit. Some people aren't financially literate. They're born into families where this wasn't practiced, where their parents just spent all the money they had on a car, on a house, on rent, you know, whatever it may be, and they didn't have money to spend or invest. So, yeah, man, we need to educate the people out there. We need to make people live a more financially secure life and help them to thrive. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So
that's the whole goal.
These have been our stories, right? And anybody out there listening, like, if any of it's resonated with you got any other similar stories, we'd love to hear it as well. Because
we would love for them to write in. Maybe there's some methods that we didn't touch on that can help people to make some passive income and some side hustles that people could do. You know, we would love to hear from them. Dylan, you got anything to add to our audience that maybe they could help us with at all? I know we're looking for a name for the new podcast. I know it's informed Moron, but we're thinking of a live podcast theme. You know, we're trying to think of a new name to market it as.
Yeah. So I mean, I think the things that we're really struggling with that we could use help from the people with is marketing schemes and how to really market something. How if they have any really good ideas for that, and just ways like odd jobs that they do. Like, just I want to hear like weird jobs that people do and they make money doing it, and how they found those jobs, because that's super interesting to me, talking to people about like how they got their job, especially people with interesting jobs, because it's usually some story you don't expect. A lot of the times they didn't just go straight through the ranks.
Right. Yeah. It's like, what are your side hustles? Like, what odd jobs have you done? That's absolutely fascinating to figure out and to hear about.
I love that idea, man.
Yeah, exactly.
That keeps it open too.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, we've done a fucking long podcast. That was our first episode visually as a unit, and I loved it, man. That was some great vibes. Let's clap it up. Let's clap it up right here. We got people from 2 different states right now, man. We all came together, and I can't wait to do another one, man. We'll have some new guests on the podcast, and we'll let the people know what we're doing. Maybe next time we can do this live. Like, we got 0 viewers on it right now, but
maybe next time,
maybe a couple, and they could ask some questions to us. But it's only up from here, guys. I'm really excited, and I think that was some great content right now.
Yeah, and to all you morons out there, we hope you're informed.
We hope you're informed. What do you got to add, Dylan? What do you got to say, baby? What do you got to say,
Oh,
Dylan?
is it over?
No, you gotta say something.
Oh, we're still rolling.
Yeah, it's still rolling. You got to say something to the audience.
Peace out.
Peace out, bro.
Peace out. Yeah, later.
All
It's fun.
right.
Fucking learn. Hope we apply some of this shit, huh?